How's everybody doing? The full regular council meeting for Tuesday, January 24th, 2023 is called to order at 7:03 p.m. We're going to have a moment of silent meditation followed by a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Roll call, Mayor Nickerson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Perella. Councilperson Erbom.
Present.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Councilperson Martin.
Present.
Also present for the record, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk, is the Alu Village Manager. Joseph Geller is running late, the attorney.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I appreciate it. Next, we're moving down to approval of the agenda. I know that our E1 is being postponed until next month, which is the Women's Club recognition presentation and awards. And so I'm going to scratch that. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? If nobody has any other changes, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
So move.
Moved by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Martin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none. Moving on to good and welfare. This is the time right now where if anybody wants to come up and talk about anything on the agenda itself, you guys come up and say your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to do so. Also understand that every agenda item that we go over, you're going to have a chance to speak for every agenda item also. Okay. Say your name and address for the record.
Pascal DePool, 177 Northwest 90th Street. Good evening. I know that we are talking about STRs again tonight. We're kind of restarting everything. I just wanted to put a little bit in perspective. We've done it for over a year now, and it's always come across that this is a huge public nuisance and problem and tons of calls and everything. We did a public records request for 2022 with the chief of police, and he had actually gone through every single call the police had done, because right now they will from now on separate from STRs to non-STRs. They have not in the past, so he actually had to go through every single call. There were 5 calls in a whole year on STRs. One of them, they're not sure if it was an STR, they just put it on the list to be safe. One of them is a call on my STR. And it was because the guest wanted to have a record that there was cameras at the house. So all the nuisance complaints and all the huge thing that it sounds like when you guys are talking about it, 5 calls. One we're not sure, one was mine on a camera thing. So there's 3 calls. One of them was a noise complaint. So we're making this huge thing. It's becoming more and more and bigger and more intrusive on everybody. You guys are proposing changes again tonight that are just making, we have talked about this and said we want to have a lean, mean, easy to follow regulation, and you guys are building and building and building on something that's a copy from Amy Shores, who right now is not enforcing their STR. They haven't even written one single license, and that's what we're building on. So my request to you is, if we are restarting this, that we do what we'd asked from the beginning. Let's do a workshop with everybody, people that are for, people that are against, figure out what we have ordinances on the books for already, and then write a specific small ordinance that addresses the few things that we don't have in law already. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else for good and welfare? Hearing, seeing none. Moving on to consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Moved by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Do I have a second of approval for consent agenda?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Martin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none. We're going to skip down to the resolutions, you guys. We're going to go to resolution I-2, which is, let me pull it up real quick. Madam Clerk, I'm going to have you to read that. Yeah. The 40th year one, because we don't need Attorney Geller for that. Hold on a second. Let me just pull it up real quick. All right. Madam Clerk, if you will, can you please read that resolution into the record for us?
I-2 Resolution 40th Year Building Recertification. A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of El Portal, Florida, of Miami-Dade County, Florida, providing for the 40th year recertification of the Village Hall property for the Village of El Portal of Miami-Dade County, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. Madam Manager, if you want to jump in real quick and just do an explanation, then I'll go to the council, see if they have any questions.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mayor Nickerson. This item is it's a state law that we have to follow. It's a 40-year inspection due upon the Village of El Portal building itself. We have about 28 other buildings, structures within the village that are going to be doing this as well. We have a due date. I don't have that on me at this moment, but I can provide it. But we were given 12 months to complete the 40-year recertification. This is for structures that are older. They're looking for electrical systems that may be outdated, unsafe, electrical corrosion, rebar and concrete that is pulled away or buckled or popped, or pool decking, oxidation, those kinds of things. This is, once this milestone recertification is reached, then we will have to renew it every 10 years. Based on the things that happened at Surfside at the tragic site of collapse, the Florida State Building Code is now really looking at measures to ensure that these older buildings are safe, and we will be conducting that. We can't do it ourselves. We have to hire an outside inspector, and we did receive 3 quotes, and this was the lesser of the 3 in terms of the dollar amount, but a highly recommended inspector. So I ask that you please approve it so that we can recertify the Village of El Portal building. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Manager. Yeah, a lot of building requirements changed after Surfside, understandably. Is there any questions from the council for the manager about this? Any questions from the audience about this? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution I-2?
Before you do that, can I
Yes.
just get in on it? I
Oh,
don't
sorry
wanna-
about that. I didn't see you.
I don't want to belabor but what the manager just said, I just thought that the information was put together very, very, very good. I mean, it didn't take a long time for it to figure out that this is one of those mandated things that has to be done, but it was the simplicity of the correspondence that I'm giving notice to. It's like that other one that we have to do every so often too. But this 40-year, I didn't realize that I should have. I've been here 30 of those 40. I should have recognized it, but they were doing that when I first started. So thank you very much for the simplicity. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Appreciate it. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution I-2?
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Do I have a second? Second by Vice Mayor Perrella. Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call on I-2, please?
Roll call. Councilperson Martin.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
Aye.
Councilperson Perrella. Vice Mayor. Councilperson Erba.
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next, Madam Manager, if you wouldn't mind, can we go right into the reports? Do you have your report in front of you?
You mean my manager's
Your
report?
manager, yeah, your
okay,
manager's
well,
report. I'm just trying to
good.
save time for everybody because
I understand.
the other resolution, garage
Nice.
conversion, we need Attorney Geller to swear them in, the individuals here, and then the short-term rental, we need him here for that. So let's just go into the reports.
Okay.
Still trying to make it as short as night as possible.
That's lovely, thank you. I've never had it at 7:12 PM, that's wonderful. My manager's report is pretty much ready. I haven't sent it out just yet because I'm working on a few tweaks, but I will give you some updates. First off, I want everyone to know that on Saturday, our very own Vice Mayor Louis Perrella is hosting a community meeting to review the El Portal Parks renovation and preservation plans. It will be here in the Village Hall on Saturday, January 28th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. All are welcome. We'll be presenting plans and talking directly with our landscape architect as well as the Miami-Dade County archaeologist who will give detailed descriptions of what needs to happen at our 2 historic sites, which is the Burial Mound as well as Sherwood Forest, and then other plans about the other parks, such as the Tot Lot, Soares River Estate Park, and the Nature Trail. So we're excited to finally get this project underway, but we really want to present to the community before we get started. And if you haven't already noticed, we are conducting a mobility study in the village as well as a traffic study. They're going on simultaneously. So if you see some little markings on the ground, please just keep going about your usual business. We want our engineers to get an accurate read for what is happening in the village. So, you know, I'm letting you all know, just continue about your normal business in the village. But we are, that study is being conducted right now. And once that is completed, we will be looking to also work with Miami-Dade County and identifying some areas where we can do some traffic calming, maybe painted crosswalks. We'll be making a presentation to Miami-Dade County, and hopefully we have the numbers and the documentation to support our requests for lowered speed limits on our municipal streets. Just an FYI, the Cavista project, I mean, it's a monster. I mean, it definitely makes an impression on our skyline if you look toward the annexed area. They are continuing with their construction. Everything seems to be on time or according to their schedule. But we have had some complaints from City of Miami residents. All have been found to be in compliance in terms of the construction on Cavista's side. And so they're working to ensure that the environment is protected and that the waterway is safe. And we've had no issues, and they've had monitors. So everything has been according to the law, and they have been dotting every I, crossing every T in terms of permits, special events permits for the noise and starting work early. So we're pleased with that, and you can see the diligence because the building is amazing already. So we're getting very close. That's it. Skatebird Miami. They are open for business. They are still operating with a temporary certificate of occupancy, but they are in compliance and are working to get their certificate of occupancy, and we hope to see that in the next 3 to 4 months. I am going to defer the rest of my report until I will be posting it on the village website. So, and that will give you more information about what the individual departments are doing and a lot of milestones being reached in code enforcement as well as the building department. And if anyone ever has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll have the manager's report on the village website tomorrow by 5 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Manager. I appreciate it. I'll do a couple things for the mayor's report. A few weeks ago, myself and the village manager, we were contacted like a month or so ago, a couple months ago, and they were asked to be a part of on CW, I think it's called Inside South Florida or whatever. So we're on that, and it's going to be an ongoing thing that we're interviewed every other month. And so the first one went well. I kind of explained to. I'm going to age us here for a second, Madam Manager. Oh, this is perfect timing. I kind of explained to the manager after we had the interview. I said, I said, this is good. I said, because, I give the energy and she gives like the sturdy details, the logical detail. I said, it's kind of like Flavor Flav and Chuck D. I said, I'm like Flavor Flav, and she's a serious one. She's like Chuck D. And so the guys started laughing. It was fun. We had fun. And so they're going to come back to us every other month, just talk about things happening in El Portal and just kind of like, what's going on and things like that or whatever. And we have more stuff. That came from the whole Mayor of the Year and all that type of stuff also. And so we have more stuff happening where, Manager Lou, if I may, so the Miami Shores Chamber of Commerce, I'm now on their executive board. as of this weekend. And I just got, because if you guys might know, unfortunately, because of the new statute that came down in Florida, Crystal Wagger had to step down.
Yeah.
And Crystal Wagger was on the executive board for the Miami-Dade County League of Cities, and so they just voted and unanimously yesterday appointed me as part of the executive board to take Crystal Wagger's spot. So we have that. So I'm just saying that, not necessarily, I appreciate it, not necessarily for myself, but all these things will just give El Portal more power, because it gives us a foot in the door in many different aspects now. So there's many more things that we can reach out and network that can come to us. So it's going to improve the community. That being said, I'm cutting the rest of my mayor's report. Attorney Geller has arrived, Madam Clerk, for the record. We're going to stay in the resolutions because we do have a garage conversion, and I want to get those individuals out of the way before we go to the short-term rental. So we're going to go to Attorney Geller, if you see it in front of you, Resolution I-1, and then we'll have to swear the individuals in.
Resolution I-1, a resolution. Resolution I-1, a resolution of the Village Council of El Portal, Florida, authorizing the approval of the variance for a garage conversion as requested by Isabel Solomon and Asher Sadon, I think it is, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much.
And the address, I'm sorry, Mayor, the address of the property is 160 Northeast 89th Street.
Thank you very much. As they make their way up, Attorney Geller, you have to swear them in correctly. Anybody who's going to speak.
Everyone who is going to give testimony, please raise your right hand and repeat after us, sir. And repeat after me.
I,
And state your name.
Asher Sedone,
Do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that the testimony I will give
that the testimony I will give
in this matter
in this matter
is the truth,
is the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Or you may take an affirmation.
Thank you very much, Attorney Geller. Thank you very much, you all. Through Chairperson Martin's Planning and Zoning Committee, we already went through this once. If there's any questions, I'm going to ask the council in a second. But Camilla, can you just let us know if there's anything that has been changed, if there's anything that from the first, from the committee meeting, they had to change to come into compliance with? Were they already in compliance? And if so, does the staff still recommend approval, if so?
Certainly. Good evening, council members. Thank you, Mayor Nickerson. This variance application, we recommended approval at the Planning and Zoning Committee. It complied with the zoning requirements and was consistent with a comprehensive plan. And there have not been any changes since that meeting for today.
Does the council have any questions for Camilla or the resident? Oh, Ms. Ash. No, does anybody from the audience have any questions about this? No? Okay, coming back, do I have a motion to approve Resolution I-1?
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Do I have a second? Second by Vice Mayor Perrella. Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call on I-1?
Roll call. Councilperson Martin.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
Yes.
Councilperson Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perrella.
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, sir. Thank you very much, Camilla. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. All right, you guys. So we're moving to the last two items on the agenda, which is, we have the village attorney reports also. We'll do that before we leave, but we did that. We're good. So we're doing the agenda item H1 and H2. Councilperson, Chairperson Perrella, Martin, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure.
And you do it however you want to do it. I don't know if you want to
Sure,
combine
sure.
them or is
I'm gonna
the
combine
floor
them.
is yours.
Yes.
All right.
I'm going to combine them and just kind of let us know where we are. So this is appearing as a discussion, but really it's an update. Based on recommendations from city staff and from conversation with village residents, the village attorney, and you can chime in whenever you would like to, or if I'm misstating anything, because I want everybody to have an accurate idea of what's happening. The village attorney is suggesting that we revise our current ordinance in the way presented as an attachment to our agenda. So all of those changes are outlined in red. Procedurally, where this leaves us is we would have to then, I didn't want it to appear as an ordinance tonight, but at the next meeting, we would have to read this as an ordinance twice and then discuss the fees. That's the procedural setup right now that we're looking at. So tonight is an opportunity for us to review those changes and to chime in on those. I do want to just clarify that we are not starting over again. Our ordinance is in place. This is a revision to the current ordinance. This is not a time to discuss whether or not we should have the ordinance. It is in place. These are the revisions that are being put before us, and then we can ask questions, if we have any, to the village attorney about those revisions presented and outlined in red on the document.
Madam Chair, let me just add to what you said, with all of which I agree with. Just to be clear again, for the purposes of what the procedural posture is, per your request, these are not action items tonight. That's why they're in H, under discussion, and they're not under I as resolutions, per your request, to make sure that we had a further opportunity to discuss this with residents. So tonight is just open discussion on both.
Very
For the
true.
next meeting, we will schedule first reading on an ordinance which amends the existing ordinance that we adopted last year. That ordinance is in effect, and actually, we could be adopting fees, last meeting, this meeting, to just implement the ordinance as it's already on the books. But instead, we've recommended, in consultation with you, with the mayor, with other members of the village council, and with our staff, based on comments from residents, we've recommended an ordinance to amend the existing ordinance with the changes that are outlined as the chair of the P&Z said in red. That would be heard on first reading at the next meeting, and it will then require a second reading to be final at the following meeting. We certainly can still make any other changes prior to that first reading that the council decides it wants before it comes to first reading, or we can simply go ahead at first reading and approve it, and again, it then requires a second reading at the following month to be final. The fees, as the chair said, are set by the resolution. There are recommendations from the administration. Setting the fees could be, but is not on the agenda as an action item tonight. The fees can be set by a resolution. At the next meeting, along with first reading of the ordinance that amends, the fees could equally well be set by resolution on the same night as second reading of the new ordinance amending the existing ordinance. And it doesn't necessarily matter which of those, but we would recommend that whenever you adopt the resolution on the fees, it should become effective at the time you approve the ordinance amending the existing ordinance on second reading. So if you do it the night of first reading, you can delay its implementation for a month, or you can simply put it off and have it done when you do second reading. Either will work just as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you for the explanation. Honestly, we want this process to be as transparent as possible, which is why we made the decision not to just put this on for first reading tonight. With that being said, I do have one question on the document. It's section 5-72. It says that licenses are valid for a year. Is there any desire, and Madam Manager, I think this is to you, but is there any desire to make those licenses expire on the exact same date? I know with DPBR, they expire on October 1st, and whatever fees are just kind of prorated. Would that be easier administratively?
Yes, it would.
Okay. And so
I-
should we do that October 1st date, just so that it dovetails?
Yes, I
Okay.
think that would be the better, yes, because otherwise it's another
It's a
layer of-
nightmare.
yes.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I agree with that. So that would be the only addition that I would have. I would leave it to the other members of the council to chime in as to whether or not they have any additional questions on this. Councilwoman Lightfoot Ward, I was about to make you a commissioner.
With that said, we're working with the budget, right? Where we would be working with the budget, so that the discussion would happen before that fiscal year started.
Okay,
If there was gonna be a raise in the fees.
that's a good point.
So,
Good point.
seems to me that we will already have discussed it during the budget hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time that we adopt the budget, then that would have taken care of it. We don't need a second, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Attorney, correct me if I'm wrong, it would not take a second, because it would be part of the budget.
A second what?
Because you said something about changing the fees.
Oh, no, well, from what I understand, and the attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, we can change the fees at any time via resolution. What I'm talking about is just for the manager's ability to kind of not have to do this renewal piecemeal throughout the year and just have one set date where all the renewals will come in. So they're essentially just dealing with new applications throughout the year, all the renewals on October 1st or that week.
All right,
So,
understood,
yeah.
understood.
If I might, Madam Chair, that's correct. But to your question also, with budget in mind,
That's what I'm
by
talking-
having all the renewals due October 1st, they'll coincide with our fiscal year as well, regardless of when you start. I mean, if you start 6 months into the year, you'll pay half the fee, and then you'll have the full renewal. Everybody will have the full renewal October 1st, so it would track with the budget. It also has the benefit, by doing it that way, that somebody who's just starting, who's only gonna have 6 months or 3 months left in the fiscal year, has a lower entry cost
For sure.
into providing the service. They get to start without having to pay a full year, unless they're starting right on October 1st. And it gives them a little time to, bring in some revenue before they pay a full year. So it has a couple of benefits. But one of them is the one you raised. It tracks the budget.
Thank you.
So with that being said, any other questions or concerns on the topic? Okay, that was quick. Councilman Erbaum, do you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I do think it's good that it's taking a little bit of extra time to get through this. We'll have a better ordinance at the end of this. And to Pascal's point at the beginning of the meeting regarding the number of calls and complaints, for me, I don't see this ordinance as like a reaction to that issue specifically. I see this ordinance as one of these things that has become necessary based on how things are changing overall. So, I mean, I was born in '79. I didn't have a cell phone until I was in my 20s. And so, I'm part of that group of people who might not have truly imagined what the age of internet would bring, right? Meaning that there's a lot of new businesses and business models now that did not operate in the past. And so, so as opposed to being reactionary when it comes to, we're going to get sued from both sides, basically, right? Someone's going to be harmed by, potentially harmed, I should say. Someone's potentially going to be harmed by, I'm not a lawyer. Someone's going to potentially be harmed by, a guest at a short-term rental, right? And then they're going to sue the village for saying, why didn't you have any precautions in place to protect the residents, right? And then some other, overcompensation in terms of, punitive actions from the village against the short-term operator is going to result in a lawsuit saying, you've impeded on my ability to do business. So in this catch-22 situation, I see this ordinance as necessary in some form based on how things are changing. And so instead of kind of hiding from it or waiting until, there's some impending emergency that requires this explicitly, I am probably a little frustrated that we're not getting to a first reading tonight of the amendment to the ordinance. But on the same token, I think we've gotten good feedback here, and I think we're on track to have an ordinance that will survive. So, that's certainly the goal, even a little bit more than that. My bar is a little bit higher than that, but, and then, final note regarding the fees, I just maintain consistently that, having fees that are reasonable, for an average operator who is, living in the residence or close by and actively participates in the management of that short-term rental, should not be priced out where fees, again, that are just rising too high we're just going to be left with absentee owners and LLCs and S corps and everything else. So those are my 2 cents.
I appreciate your 2 cents, and I do think that we've discussed a lot of the ins and outs of whether or not we should have it or shouldn't have it, and for sure we land on the side of we need it, and I agree with that. And I hear everything that is being said by the residents, and I've had meetings with residents and really chewed over a lot of the arguments. And this is part of the process, right? So everyone said that our foot was kind of too heavy on the gas. So this is an effort to kind of slow it down, show everyone our work, and kind of reinforce the idea that we're trying to have the best, most collaborative document that we can come up with. But to your point, if you look at AirDNA, which is a platform that monitors short-term rentals, since the beginning of 2022, the amount of new entries onto Airbnb are at like 54%. They've had 54% increase in the amount of new registrants. So we are not only addressing historically what has happened with short-term rentals, which, by the way, we do not have a way to monitor or locate short-term rentals. So as far as the information presented, you have to wonder how accurate is that. But what we can expect is that in the future, there will be more people engaged in this business endeavor, and it behooves us to be on the front end of that. And we definitely want to be fair to all parties involved, but part of our job up here is to be proactive. And I think that's a big piece of the puzzle. If you look to other municipalities, Dallas just banned all short-term rentals in single-family residential neighborhoods. There is an impact being felt, and we are well-served by thinking about what this business endeavor looks like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and put something in place that can properly address that and preserve the rights of everyone involved. So I do agree with what you're saying, and I share your frustration that we're not doing the first reading, but I think it's necessary for us to make it clear that residents do have a role to play in providing input, because some of these revisions are based on input that we've received from residents. And there have been, I know I've sent emails to residents saying, hey, give me your red lines so that I can discuss that with the village attorney. And I've given people those entry points with me, and I'm sure maybe other council members have done the same. So this is in an effort to let everyone know that we're not just trying to force our own agenda. This is truly something that is, first of all, necessary, and second of all, we're trying to make as collaborative as possible. So with that being said, I think, are there any other conversations amongst the members of the council? Any comments? Councilwoman Lightfoot Ward.
Thank you, Councilwoman Martin. We didn't start this fight. We're just trying to finish it. This is a state mandate. Wherever we're lacking, we have to we have to address it. We are lacking in the part that we're about to discuss whenever we discuss it. And I appreciate my fellow councilwoman for being vigilant in making sure that every voice is heard. We didn't start this fight, because if it was left up to the village, we probably wouldn't have it. I'm just gonna tell you just like that, because I've had my ups and downs too with the residents. Why in the world did you do it? We didn't create this. This was a state mandate on every city. So if we're lacking, which we are, we have not established fees. We've been talking a lot, and people have been obeying to an extent. But now we gotta get on to the business of charging. We gotta get on to the business of, let's get this done. Let's get this behind us. We don't like it any more than the first comment that was made on it tonight. So we're not trying to do anything that we don't have to do. We're doing, as the attorney says, we're being vigilant. We're being responsible to what we have to do. This has been in the works, and we haven't had fees even established. This is all that it's about. So kind of work with us a little bit. The state put this on us. We didn't put it on ourselves. Every city in the state has to comply, and that's all we're trying to do. We're just a little bitty city, and we don't want it to be disturbed. We don't want it to be destroyed. To your observation, on my street also, these people don't care anything about the permanent resident. Noise. They don't care anything about how many cars are parked on my street. They don't care anything about, and I'm not gonna take the police from critical matters to make people behave. But that's what it's been taking. That's what it's been costing. Everybody think this is a free-for-all because we're a tiny city. It's a free-for-all to do whatever you want and destroy it. We are not having it. We're a beautiful city, and people are a very good kept secret. But folks know about us. And these two short-term rentals, personally, it may cost me not being on this dais next year. Personally, I wish we didn't have to deal with it, but we do. Because why? We're responsible. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. I really do not want to sit in your seat with this thing being like it is, but we're doing the best we can for the better, for the good, first of all, because the state says we have to. Secondly, because we want to do it decently and in order. And third, we still have a feeling. We live here too. We still have a compassion about who or what goes on in the city for those people such as yourself that obey the rules. There are others that don't. And this foolishness about taking property, buying it, but not living in it, there's something wrong with that. You bought it, you said you own it, but yet you're renting it out. There's something wrong with that. Have we made that an issue? We have not. We have not. I've got 2 on my block. They do not live in the village, but they do rent out the property. For just that, not permanent living, for just that, to throw parties. We're gonna do the best we can with it, but we cannot ignore it. Thank you, Madam.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any comments from members of the audience? Oh, to the mic, and then you state your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name is Jacomina Lepoel. I live in El Portal, 177 Northwest 90th Street. My age, my height. No, okay. It's funny that you mentioned the 50% increase, 53 you said. I had in my notes 50%. I also read our DNA. And what is happening now, which really should put you at ease, is that because we have such a huge increase of STRs in all of South Florida, not only this area, a lot of us property owners, that's all we have. We have no 401ks, we have no saving, that's all we have, an extra rental property. What's happening is most of us are now putting them back to long-term rental because with this extreme influx of competition, everybody's lowering their prices. So that now most of us, or many of us, are continuing running at a loss. So then the decision is easy, back to long-term rental. So you wait a couple of months, maybe a year, and you will see automatically half of them will be gone. The ones that didn't buy a long time ago, the ones that bought recently, overextended themselves, they're going to be gone because it just doesn't make sense. It's not profitable. Plus all the increased fees that we have to pay Airbnb. The other thing is also, and my offer still stands, anytime, I don't live far, I live literally on the other side of the school. Anytime there's a party, let me know, I'll come there. I call Airbnb, they shut that down forever. The host will get discredited and there's no tricks around it. You can't relist under another name because the property address is the same. So ever since COVID happened and some of these parties happened because crazy people from up north thought they could just, I don't know what they thought. Ever since then, Airbnb has changed their laws, has changed their rules. One party, you're out if you don't shut it down immediately. So one call to Airbnb and they erase that listing from their platform. They ban that listing, that person, that owner, that property from their platform. They can never do this again. Problem solved.
Thank you.
And seriously, call me anytime. I'll shut them down if there's another party.
Very good.
Okay?
Well, thank you for that. And that's a good bit of information to know, right? So ordinances and resolutions, they change based on what the realities are. So if the reality is that in a year or 2 or 3, we see that there are no short-term rentals, no new entries, maybe at that point, whomever is sitting in this seat can take a look at the snapshot of what it is currently, and maybe they would make a different decision.
Why I'm here, because we already made a decision, some of them, we're gonna just do long-term again. It's easier, no hassle, don't have to constantly check if the cleaner's cleaned well enough and all that stuff. I have more freedom. Why I want to fight for my right is for the freedom to have the choice. Because when COVID happened, both of us are self-employed. Our job stopped. We didn't get government handout, bailout, whatever it was called. We didn't get that because we're self-employed. It's really complicated. I guess there is a way to do it, but we just, too much work. We didn't know how to do it. So for us, because of COVID and the northern states being on lockdown, everybody came to Florida. And it saved us. During COVID months when the north was locked, we made double than what we normally make. And that saved us. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to pay the mortgages or food, for that matter. So this is our survival. And what if another epidemic happens or something like COVID and there's another crisis? We're in the same boat. We didn't get salary or protection from our jobs.
No.
We didn't have that.
No, I completely get that.
So test.
I completely get that. And what we're doing tonight, I want to reassure you, like, you can still run a short-term rental. Like, nothing we're doing tonight says that, actually, we cannot say that there are no STRs in El Portal.
Right.
That is not what we're saying.
Right.
We are just putting
the state
forth.
law says that we are allowed.
Precisely. You are able to run your STR, and there's nothing that we are saying about that. What we are talking about is how you do that. We are creating a program within which people need to be registered and processes that they need to follow to ensure that everyone can quietly enjoy their property. But for sure, you can continue to run the STR.
But if
That's
the
not what we're
fees
doing.
are becoming too astronomical already at this moment, this very moment, it's maybe $100 more will I make with STR compared to long term, a month. That's not really.
Well, for sure. I encourage you to stay engaged when we do set the fees, but we haven't set the fees yet. So once we do have the fees set, then we can talk about, whether or not those are excessive. But I definitely hear you. I hear you, and I empathize with your situation for sure. I want you to know that you can run your STR, and I do hear your concerns.
We moved here 25 years ago, and we picked El Portal because it was a free place. It was multi-ethnicity, diversity, and everybody was welcome, and it was a great place. I remember Regina, she was awesome. And the way this village is going is horrible. It's like we're not allowed to do anything. It's like being in a prison.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what it's like, but I do understand what you're saying.
I love what the village is doing as far as beautification, plants, fantastic. But STR, workshop is a great idea because if you know how easy it is to shut a party house down forever, Why go through all these meetings and all the drama and all the stress, time, when you can, with one phone call, you ban them forever?
We have had a workshop. I don't know if you attended, but I do believe that for sure your husband attended. But we have had a workshop, and we do hear that Airbnb, it does a fantastic job of shutting down party houses, but Airbnb is not the only platform. So we have to think about that as well. But I thank you for your input. I do think that your 3 minutes is up, and I will take into consideration what you've said. So thank you.
I have more, but whenever.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Your husband has my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me via email. Mr. Russell and I have had coffee and spoke about different items, so you can for sure reach out to me directly. Is there anyone else that has a comment on this item? Come forth and state your name and address for the record.
Rodolfo Alonso, 199 Northwest 90th Street. Since councilperson were born, I think you mentioned you were born in 79. I'm a bit older than you. I was born in the early 60s. And
No.
yeah, past 60. Anyway, that's not relevant. The point I'm trying to make is, like a lot of you here, I've been a resident of El Portal before short-term rentals became as popular. Today, I am a short-term rental property owner here at El Portal, where I live. I'm also here, besides the obvious that I'm a short-term rental property owner, because, like I said, I'm a resident, I love my community, and I want nothing but the very best. When the first version of the ordinance was passed, I did take the time to review it, literally word by word. And then, like probably most of us in this room, did a lot of research. My findings, but then again, I'm not an attorney, is it just didn't sound to me as equal or fair. But then again, I'm a short-term rental property owner, and I think it's human nature to perceive or process things the way that you want them to be, or that's just human nature. And most likely I'm not an exception. I am human. With that said, trying to be objective here before my time is up, I'm glad and I thank the council members for taking a second look. Also, I'd like to point out, and I just feel the pressure of the time, that the fees proposed, which I understand were proposed by the administration, the management, if I'm not mistaken, since several numbers have been thrown, was $750 as a licensing fee. You can go online. There are two major platforms. There's like Mr. B&B, there is BRBO, there's Airbnb, which is the largest of all the platforms. But when you actually put in city name, which you can put Hallandale, you can put Aventura, you can put El Portal, there's less than 26 listed at Airbnb and less than 17 listed at BRBO. There's another one which actually probably for the LGBT community called Mr. B&B. I think there's like less than 9. There were 8 last time I checked, but that was in December. So if I remember correctly, sitting here in these meetings, the number that has been thrown, which I'm not sure where it came from, tell you the truth, was 40. Like there are 40 short-term rentals at El Portal. I was just doing some basic math. If the fee for a license is going to be $750, assuming for a minute that that number that's been mentioned of 40, you multiply that, you get $30,000. I understand from, I think this is public, I know it's public record, I read it, there's a program that has been purchased by the city by the name of God Pilot that is was $4,000. And then on that contract, it makes reference to like 3 year for $30,000. In proportion, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And last but not least, I'm afraid my time is up. The state of Florida has in place rules, regulations, and requirements for short-term rentals. And I respect that laws are for everyone and should not favor anyone, but at the same time should not single out anyone. And it feels like, and I think this feeling is shared, that short-term property rentals are being singled out. That's not right. And last but not least, I think it's important all of us, especially those that are here from a legal side, to pay close attention and be awake while the residents are speaking. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input, your consistent input throughout the program, throughout the process of getting this passed. One of your points, I think, when you're saying that residents feel like they're being singled out, I think you're probably foreshadowing a larger conversation about code enforcement. Is that where you're going on that? Okay. Which I agree with you. I think that in general, we need to do more as it relates to code enforcement. I want to talk to Councilman Erbaum, is that your committee? I'm sure that when we have our next code enforcement committee meeting, we can have a more robust conversation on how we do that. But I do want to say, just because we are focusing on short-term rentals now does not preclude us from focusing on other code enforcement issues that might be present within the village. It is on our agenda. It is on our radar. I don't want you to feel singled out in any way, because at the end of the day, we are all a village. And what we are trying to do on this day is make sure that this village functions for everyone. So I don't want you to have that feeling, because it's not our intention. At least I can only speak for myself. It's not my intention, and I don't believe that it's anyone else's intention as well. It is just an issue that we have perceived that has the potential of growing, and we are doing what we can now without having a crystal ball to address it in the way that we think is going to be the most meaningful and long-lasting and fair resolution on that topic. So I do want to allay your fears on that level and let you know that I'm definitely listening. If there's anyone else that would like to speak, Mr. DePue?
Pascal DePool, 177 Northwest 90th Street. Just a procedural question real quick. There are a couple things in the memo from Madam Manager, as well as in the ordinance that have proposed changes. Are you going to go through those one by one, or are we talking about everything right now?
You're talking about the redlined changes?
Memo from the manager?
The memo concerning the fees?
No, the memo concerning enforcement and all those things. The one memo that we have from her. And
Yeah,
then the
so,
red lines. Are
yeah,
you-
we are talking about the red lines as far as if we have any questions about those items, or if we have any additional questions or comments about the actual ordinance. If you would like to address something that the manager has stated in her memo, you can do that as well. As far as the fees are concerned, I think that we should tackle that at a later date.
No, I'm just asking, you have the changes in the ordinance. Are you going to step through those one by one and talk?
No.
It's just like
You're
one
gonna,
of the years.
you're gonna have the opportunity now to state all of the questions or concerns that you have with that, within that 3-minute time.
You're free to
constraint.
raise anything you want to raise. There's not a restriction to one item or the next.
Thank you. So does that include the memo from the manager that talks about some of the things that code enforcement will do, or the building department will do, or things like that?
Yeah.
Okay. two big things that we're looking at. One is when I look at the law that the state has in regards to public lodging, which is us, with STRs. They specifically say that there's a lot of stuff that the state preempts, where it says, this is my thing, I take care of it, and specifically prohibits municipalities from taking care of and looking at and writing ordinances about. It's in Florida statute 509.032, where it basically says that the only enforcement in terms of code inspection would be anything in compliance with Florida Public Building Code and the Florida Prevention Code, as it is done to any other building that's not a short-term rental. And I think some of the things that you guys have in here, where there's code enforcement inspections, especially on things that are regulated with the DBPR, which we've brought up countless times, the linens and things like that. If you don't define what a clean linen is, I'm gonna start having an argument with whoever's checking it. Just to say that a guest complains and now I can have code enforcement come in and take a look at that. I think if you want to take care of something that DBPR preempts you from doing, we need definitions on all those things instead of just having, hey, it has to be clean. Because clean to me, is that a new sheet? Is that how many times can that be used? And then the second one is, you guys are talking in here in the manager's memo that the building department would do a change of use from residential to commercial, but in the El Portal code, commercial does not touch anything having to do with lodging. There's a specific section in the El Portal code that talks about building use, and that building use is specific on lodging, not commercial. So if you're moving a CO, if you're saying I need to get a new certificate of occupancy because I'm changing the use of the building, we're not doing a commercial structure, we're not doing commercial building. That's not my opinion, that's your code. The El Portal building code talks about that.
Could you repeat the section?
The Florida statute?
509432.
Section you're referencing.
Yeah, I'm getting to that. It's section 24B8. Number 1 defines the single-family residence, which obviously is not what we're talking about. But if you look through the whole section D, the commercial section D, none of that talks about any kind of lodging facilities. That would be under under B, and the only two there that are in the code are the bed and breakfast under number 1 and an inn under number 2. And then there's a hotel, but that's anything over 12 units, we don't have that. So we are regulated by DBPR, which is, they look at us as a hotel because we are a lodging. But I think that's a little bit of an overreach, and you're not looking at the uses correctly. So I think those have to be readdressed and re-looked at. We've had a lawyer look through our ordinance, and he's told us what he believes is not legal. The gentleman that we've had look at is the representative that the Florida Bar has picked to do the continuing education for lawyers on short-term rentals. So he is, according to the Florida Bar, not me, the subject expert in it. I have a copy of the ordinance that I'm happy to give you guys, where it's just whited out, where he says there's a problem with. So I'm happy to give that to you guys. But I think we're starting to overreach a little bit with a lot of the inspections and the doing certificate of use of occupancies and looking at the primacy of the state, that this ordinance is becoming heavier and heavier instead of lighter and lighter.
Is that the entirety of your comments? I just want to give you a chance to.
Madam Chair, could you get the name of the attorney that you're referencing? So can we get the-
Yeah,
His
I think you guys have-
last name is Brady.
Yeah, Keith Brady, I
So-
believe it is.
Keith Brady?
Yes.
What I will say is I think we're having the same conversation that I've had before with Mr. Russell. And in that conversation, I requested, it was mentioned that there was a redlined version of the document. And I requested that document in December so that I could discuss it with the attorney. And then I requested it again a week ago. And, whoa, we have to wait. We have to wait. Yes, we have to wait until we're on the mic. So it's a conversation. I'll get to speak and then you can speak as well. And And I requested that document, and I was told that it had been provided to one member of the council and that it would be provided to me after this meeting. So it is impossible for me to have a meaningful idea of what it is you are saying are the inconsistencies without having that document in front of me so that I can review it. And I'm imagining the same is true for the village attorney as well. It behooves you, when you have the opportunity, if you do have an attorney who has highlighted specific issues, to provide it to us as the council and the village attorney with enough time for us to review. This quick fire way is not going to get any sort of resolution. But the intention is, which is why I reached out, I had coffee and requested this document in December, and then requested it again prior to discussing it with the attorney, is because I want the information so that I can make sure that the document is okay. I did a bit of research on Mr. Brady, and I saw that some of his items, I am not the village attorney, I just know how to read legal documents. I saw that some of those items were dismissed. I'll let the village attorney do his research, and it would be helpful if we had an actual document so that we can review it and make sure that what it is you're saying either let you know why the inconsistencies are not present, or become aware of them and adjust for them. So if the intention is to make sure that this is a collaborative document that is sound, the information needs to be provided to us in a forum that is not this one, where we're just kind of hearing subsection C, D, E. For me, that is confusing, and I would prefer to see an item in front of me. So if you can provide that to me, that would be great. Or if Keith, Mr. Brady could reach out to the village attorney, that would be awesome.
I can give you a document today that has everything removed that he thinks is problematic.
Okay,
As
okay.
to the subsections that I was referring to, that was not anything to do with STR, that was actually El Portal Village Building Code.
No, for sure. But even that, I just want to know what the specific areas are. What area
We're
are
happy
you
to provide
discussing?
that, yeah.
And I would love to receive it, because
We've-
I've discussed receiving it twice now and have not, and that is a bit frustrating.
Because the attorney had asked us last time to please write stuff down. I've sent emails to the council before during this whole process, where I'm outlining everything that I'm saying. That
I have
going
not.
to you guys' official email, so I'm not sure if you don't have it.
I have not
Okay.
received that.
So
I did a search right before this meeting for your
be
name,
happy to
for
send it
Mr.
again,
Russell's
so.
name, and I would love to receive it. I do think the village attorney has something to say, and I think we should hear it. So,
Just
Mr.
very
Attorney.
quickly, I'd certainly welcome an opportunity to speak with the gentleman. I'd be happy to talk to Mr. Brady. He can reach out to me, or he can give me his contact info. I'm happy to reach out to him. If the gentleman is somebody who's knowledgeable in the field, I am not an attorney who pretends that I know everything about everything. I know what I think. I have an opinion. I've researched this issue and spent a lot of time on it over the years, but that doesn't mean I know everything there is to know. So for the record, I'd be happy to talk to Mr. Brady. The chair has already looked up and researched the gentleman, member of the bar. He has some expertise. I'd certainly welcome the opportunity to speak with him. That's why the chair set tonight, not for first reading,
I understand.
but for discussion specifically. And, if there's some point that is correct, I'm happy to bring that to the council and allow them to make a decision. My opinion is not binding, neither is Mr. Brady's, but as lawyers, we all have opinions. I'd certainly welcome hearing it.
The one other thing I want to bring up, and then I'm done. I read through the ordinance again, and I'm looking at, we've talked about this at length, the requirement to have 30 days to 90 days in terms of what all falls under short-term rental. The issue that we're having with that is, under Florida law, a transient rental or transient renter is anybody under 30 days or under a calendar month, whichever is shorter. If we are looking at everything under 90 days, you guys are grouping in somebody that's not a transient renter, which is not a guest. A guest is somebody who's transient, who's not there all the time. They have very different rights than a tenant. A tenant is anybody over 30 days. Plus, in the same breath, you guys are requiring us to give you a lease, and by Florida law, anybody who I enter into a lease agreement with is a tenant, not a guest. And an STR guest is different. They have way, way less rights than tenants. So if I have somebody here for a weekend, and you require me to have a lease on that, that makes him a tenant. That makes him a non-transient renter. And you are creating somebody for me that I'm gonna have a really hard time getting out of a place that our cops can't take out because they're considered a tenant and they have very, very specific rights under Florida law. So I'd love to have that. I know that's not in the changes. It's something that,
No, those
So,
are,
something I'd love
are we
to-
requiring a lease?
yes.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
Madam Chair.
No, but those are good points to put forth, and I've written them all down. I'll recognize Councilwoman Lightfoot Ward.
I'm gonna suggest something. There's one way to do, I mean, even after this discussion is over between the attorneys, I'm gonna suggest, I apologize. Madam Chair, I'm gonna suggest a workshop. A workshop where we can all be on one accord before we do another thing about this. Because what I'm hearing here is piecemeal. I've got the distinguished gentleman here saying the frustrations. I've got you who are already read and very much so studied this whole process. I have much faith in the attorney. Now this other person comes in the building. I think if we just had a workshop, go through that thing tooth and nail, like we did with some other thing, I can't remember what it is, Joe, so that we can all just start and say, listen, from that chapter forward, we have done all the work necessary to bind us and not divide us. And I don't have it doesn't matter to me when it is, that we're all just having a workshop, a community workshop. We're not council people, we are residents. Everybody in this, talking about this today, are residents. And we've had this kind of powwow, if you will, in other issues years ago too. So that any crossing out the Ts and dotting the Is, changing a statement, putting it in, everybody's on one accord when we finally do finish this thing. Because I think we're on the same page, we're just doing it from different directions. And a lot of what you just said, unfortunately, that seems like we're just going overboard. And I'm granting you that. It just seems like
No.
we're going overboard. And all I want, in closing, all I want is a united front on what we will and will not be doing on this subject. And that we've all agreed before we move forward on it, because this back and forth is like we're enemies. We all live here. I know what I'm going through with on my block. And it is not as innocent as you said. It is horrible. I got somebody I can call and say, hey, they in here doing this, and I don't like it. We don't like it, because the first person they call on my block, who you think they call? I'm on the last part of El Portal, Glendale Manor. Right with my counterpart over here. I get the calls. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I definitely hear you. My only trepidation, and I defer to the council, is that we already had a workshop. And I think some of the items that we're encountering are just a fundamental disagreement on how to proceed. I am okay if everyone wants to do a workshop. I just don't know what would be different from the workshop that we've already had. And my desire is to perfect the document, but also move the process along. So, I mean, whatever you guys, whatever you guys decide to do. And Mr. DePuy, this will have to be your last comment.
Your section 572 under 11. In the short-term rental ordinance, it says if the applicant fails to provide a copy of the Form vacation rental lease agreement to be used when contracting with any occupant or rental platform for the use of a vacation rental platform. Under Florida statute 83.43, number 4, that would make them a tenant. And then if I have a problem with them, I can't just call the police. I'd have to do an eviction.
Restate that section to me, please. And then also, please include that in the comprehensive email that you're going to be sending, or your attorney is going to be sending to the village
I also-
attorney.
It's not my attorney, it's somebody else's attorney, that's why. I
Well,
can't
let me
speak for
let me
will-
restate that.
I will-
Mr. Brady. We'll just call him Mr. Brady.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's Florida statute 83.43, number 4. That defines a tenant as somebody that I enter into with a lease. There's no time requirement on there. Because I can have a week-to-week lease, I can have a month-to-month lease, I can have a quarter-to-quarter lease, I can have a year-to-year lease.
I think I know what's going on there, but I'm gonna look at it and talk to the attorney about laying that fair for you. But thank you so much for your input. I suppose, Mr. Attorney, can we vote on whether or not there should be a workshop? Is that something we can do?
There could be a motion for a workshop
Okay.
that would pass by a vote. There could be a consensus
Okay.
to do it or not to do it. A workshop can be called honestly by the mayor. A workshop could be called really by any council member that wants to have a workshop, because it doesn't obligate any other council member to attend. It's a workshop, it's an opportunity. Let me just say a little off the topic. Sometimes when a council member wants to have a conversation with another council member that's otherwise prohibited by sunshine, they call a workshop. You have to do it properly, you have to do it through the clerk. It has to be noticed to the public so the public can attend. It has to be, advertised in sufficient fashion that the media becomes aware of it as well as the public. But anybody really can have a workshop if you want to have one, or you could discuss it as a group and decide as a group either by motion or just by consensus if you find one to be necessary.
Sounds good. So with that being said, Councilman Lightfoot Ward, I leave that to you. I will not be calling or hosting a workshop, but if anyone else on the dais sees fit, I would like to make that motion or decide to host that workshop. The village attorney has set forth the way in which to do that. With that being said, I'll let you guys chew on that and see if there's anyone else in the audience that would like to step up to the mic and state your name and address.
Good evening, Scott Russell, 199 Northwest 90th Street. In the
I
essence
need
of
to
time,
have
first
one
of
for
all, thank
public
you,
record,
Dr. Lightfoot
because you passed it on.
Ward.
For
I
public record.
appreciate your passion, even if you disagree, I appreciate it, and that you're willing to look forward to the village. I want to correct one thing, Ms. Martin. I had stated to you in an email that we would meet and get together and I would give you the orders. You never responded to my last email, period. So please put that in a record. I can repeat that again if you'd like.
Thank you for sure. I don't want to do it back and forth with you, but I requested that document in December.
I agree.
Yeah, well, I gave you an opportunity to speak. I requested the document in December that during a personal meeting that we had over coffee, you said that you would get me that document. I reached out to you again in January after speaking to the village attorney when he advised me that he had not received it. I'll let him verify that. But I know that I hadn't received it, so I requested it again. And you said that you had provided it to another member of the council, but you weren't.
Is what I said. When you got back from Jamaica and you reconnected after your month vacation, we had dialogue back and forth. I stated, and I repeat again, we meet in person. I'd be very happy to give it to you. You never responded.
Okay, so I will ask you this question. Have you provided me with the red line
I will
document?
right now.
Have you before now?
I am right now because it was part of the agenda.
I'm sorry, I don't
Perfect,
mean
so I'm
to-
glad to have
I'm
it.
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Any distribution has to go through the clerk because it's a public
Okay.
record. And yes, I will distribute. Thank you.
So with that being said, I'll let you continue with your comments.
Wonderful, thank you. So basically what I give to the clerk is my comments, because I thought we were going through by item. I didn't realize it was just a red light item. So if you want to go individually, and I'll try to talk fast, and I usually do. These are the items that, on my blue are my comments and notes, which I think are not conducive and need to be either amended or stricken. I think we need the ordinance. I think we need proper reasonable fees. I don't think there's any question of that. I don't think the fee should be a cash cow, and I know we're not talking about it tonight. Would you prefer I go through this line by line, or how would you like me to proceed?
However you would like to proceed.
Great, so let's start with the first one that's highlighted. Strike or amend, and you see there's a double yellow there, rescind the previous preemption. Been directed that that should either be stricken or amended. Second, on your second paragraph highlighted, return some local control back, strike or amend. On your third paragraph down in the yellow, may create disproportionate impacts, strike or amend. Fourth one, lower property values, then we know it's ambiguous and it actually increases property values, strike or amend. Fourth one down, the unregulated presence as well, strike or amend. Second page, and this also, the red lines are brand new, so I really don't have a lot on them, but we can also direct them. I did meet with the village manager this morning and ran through this as well with her. Vacation rentals, we need to strike or amend the language. In the red line, we are not defining the STRs, and this is where I have an issue in our 109 licenses, which is section 12.2. It very clearly also notes 23, 63, and 97. I've asked this question in a group meeting with the mayor, the attorney, Mr. Simmons, in defining a boarding house versus an STR. When you pull the divisions up, and I did send them to the village manager today, it's exactly the same verbiage as an STR. So I'm curious why we are not being equal in our representation and our definition in our own licenses, which have a very minute fee to them, $56, $64, whatever, respectively. So I think that we need to address that and make this part of your reprocess you're looking at. Am I boring you?
No.
You're looking at
No.
it. Okay, good. And next section, 5.71, I would amend and strike that area. The paragraph 5.71 is really not relevant, and especially on the highlighted yellow areas. On the 5.72, revoke for cause should be amended or stricken. Page 3 is actually fine. It was just, I was making my own comments on the following again, that you can't find STRs. The ones that are legal and registered, we are under DPR, and you can Google it and find who is in existence in El Portal. And again, we're probably talking to people that are more active here, are the ones that are wanting to build a better community and make sure the party houses are shut down, because we're not for that at all. And if you remember the speaker we had, Dr. Lightfoot Ward, there is an 800 number was given to our police chief, to Captain Harrison, that will shut them down immediately. So if you need that number as well, we definitely should get it to you if they're calling you directly. And thank you for taking care of those issues. On page 4, the application must agree to identify the village. I meant to strike that. You know, again, if I have a problem and I'm the applicant, I can't countersue the city. That's unrealistic. In 5.73, insurance required. I'm curious, does the village require proof of insurance for all of its 109 businesses licensed and follow the same fee structure? I don't think that is the case. And that's something I talked to with the village manager this morning. So again, why is it in there? The DPR, which is what we're following, does not require that. I also own Airbnbs, which I am an investor, and I have several Airbnbs, and it's how I also make my living. And not no party houses, but I also in the city of Miami, which is our bordering geography area, as well as Miami Shores, and then to the west of us, the smaller areas. So again, this already has been established. It's something that other municipalities are not requesting. I'm curious why El Portal feels we need to do that. On section 5, I did pull, it said whose standards. It says a minimum housing standard. It wasn't defined in that, which it should be defined, but it's Miami-Dade College or Miami-Dade County standards. I did pull them up, and then it follows your precedence below, which is B. It should be amended or strike B through I, because they really are not applicable. When you get down to section D, I didn't realize that, and it's not in the minimum housing standards, that we require AC now in all of our housing in El Portal. Something new to me. You know, again, people can't afford AC. If you look at the evacuation, I understand that why you'd want to have it, but it necessarily is already being covered by the DPR. State law is already existing. I'm going to counter or agree with my former neighbor and actually speaker when he said it's basically ridiculous on, who's going to, how big a soap do I have to have? What is repair the linen? Is Mr. Simmons going to be in each one and checking my soap to make sure it's not Dove or it's Dial, whatever the case may be? It's just not available. Are we also going to be talking about defining coffee cups then and napkins? And who's doing this monitoring? And why would we place that burden on our code person who's already so well burdened? Moving forward, page 6, amend or strike the phone number. Again, it's already part of the DPR and also part of Miami-Dade County ordinance if you have a tax license. I see you already struck one line on J, which is great. It needs to be applicable, and I'm going to speak to this because we are hitting on the STRs, and I agree we have to have an ordinance. I think it's wonderful. We're talking about parking information. If you take a walk within 2 blocks of here, I'm going to guarantee you're going to find 15 cars parked on a swale. I'm going to guarantee next to your house, you're going to find a boarded up house. You know, so how are we being like and equal to our local constituents if we're pulling out STR and say we're going to force the STR, but we're not going to enforce it for the community and equal? That's what I have an issue with. And I'm going to jump a little bit out of line here. We're talking about the noise ordinance, how noisy it is and how horrible it is. And we had 6 incidents last year, and you said you've had a few more called. You live next to Horseman, correct, Doctor?
I'm right behind it.
On Saturday, 6 hours of alarms went off. 6 hours. In the morning, started at 4 a.m. I'm assuming the alarms should have been connected to the fire department. No one showed up. I did contact 311, which is the number I knew to call. They gave me another number. Captain Harris was on it. They went off again. Now, if I was an STR, I'd have an immediate penalty and 2 of it. So they should have been, if Horace Mann is part of a quality of our village, they should have a $750 fine that day. So again, we're singling out and not being equal in a representation to our businesses, in that case, our school, within our community of El Portal. That's what I have an issue with. We're singling out, it's you know, it should not be done. It's equal representation for all residents and residents. So anyway, moving forward. Enforceable again, we should all hold and we should have licenses. We're following the DPR currently, and I agree, we should try to get the people that are not involved. There was a mention of over 100 platforms out there. Hopefully our Gov program will help that, and amendment on that. Additional fines in the area, I think you redlined that beautifully. And I think that concludes it. Are there any questions you guys have from my strike and amend, or did I go too fast for my timeline?
Madam Chair, may I?
Sure, Councilwoman Lightfoot Ward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm the one that calls every time Horseman goes off.
Isn't that crazy? I
Yeah,
live across the
and
street.
they don't come.
They don't come.
They don't come.
They don't come.
And I'm right there.
Yep.
My house is right there.
So
I
is
hear
mine.
all of it.
So is mine.
So thank you very much.
I
Yes,
appreciate
I'm the
that.
one that makes that call every time for the last 30 years.
I
And they
appreciate
don't
your help
always
on that.
come.
You could also come over at 4:30 when they do the garbage pickup and then they drop the kids off. That's fun too. But that's a whole nother subject.
Very good.
So basically, I agree and I applaud your work on this. You know, I think it's wonderful and I appreciate your passion on this. But we've had workshops. Our information was not heeded. It's been discussed and rediscussed and rediscussed and rediscussed. I myself had also meetings in September with Pasquale, the mayor, the village manager, our co-person. None of this stuff was heard. None of it was applied. You know, it seems like we will spend the time, and my time is just as valuable as yours. That's why when we meet, let's meet then. You know, don't ignore my emails. Answer my emails. You know, I understand we're on vacations. I'm good with that. But when it comes to this is serious because it affects our livelihoods. You know, and it's for the goodwill of the village. I'm also a resident of the village for about 9 years, and I've owned 3 homes here. You know, I wouldn't have invested in here if I didn't want to. But again, I applaud, I appreciate your consideration in looking at these items. I think a workshop and a motion to have a workshop would be wonderful. I think some people attend, some will not. But you know, again, we keep rehashing and rehashing and rehashing. And as a concerned citizen, we have retained an attorney, and the letter will be coming. We didn't know this was coming tonight, otherwise you would have had it already. He also was on a vacation, not Jamaica. He's skiing, but you know, we all take our different choices of vacations. But that will be forthcoming. We do not want to enter into a legal battle with the village. But our perception will be directed, and maybe his counsel is not as good as our counsel, or we're told that it is not sending out the legalities, and we do not want to go that route. We want to immediately work with the village, but they need to also have to work with us, which I think you are. But we need to open up the discussion more, look at some of these red lines, look at some of these ideas from the audience. And I'd love to hear the negative pros from the audience here about why we should invest. And you're going to round up people to bring in. Are they here tonight? I don't know. But let's hope they are, and they can speak too as well.
I appreciate your comments on that. And I do not want this to be a contentious conversation. I don't want it to devolve in that. You are a neighbor. I appreciate your input. I do think that similar things can happen and people can have a different characterization of exactly what occurred. Your characterization as far as my responsiveness, I don't believe is correct. However, I do appreciate you providing me with a red line document tonight so that I can have an opportunity and village staff can have an opportunity to meaningfully address some of the concerns. I also want to clarify this. Just because you said something that was not included in the document doesn't mean you weren't heard, right? There can be something that you desire that is counter to what the drafter of the document or the village attorney or the legislative body desires, right? So you're not going to see everything you want
I'm not asking
reflected
for that.
in the doc. I would like an opportunity to speak.
Please.
So that we don't talk over each other. It's just the polite way to have a conversation. So there are items that you might have requested that have not been incorporated into the body of the document. And what I can do for you is tell you why it wasn't incorporated. Now that you've given me a list, I can tell you, well, this is the reason why, and that is the reason why, and hopefully you are comforted in that you know that we are listening, we just disagree. If there are items in your red line that you've provided to me tonight, that we review and we say, hey, you're onto something, or Mr. Brady is onto something. The village attorney has made the representation as well as the legislative body, and that we are not married to anything that does not make sense or is not for the greater good of the village. So I appreciate you giving me the document. I value you as a resident and as a neighbor, and I will take this document and see whether or not I can do one of two things. Let you know why, even though you don't like it, this is in the document. Or number two, how the document will change. I would have appreciated receiving this prior to this meeting because tonight would have been a great time to tell you that. So if I had received this in December or last week, I would have done my best to have a meaty response to you on these issues. But now that we have it, next time we have a meeting and it's first reading, we can entertain a conversation on why some of the things remain and why some additional things may have changed.
May I speak now?
Sure.
Would it not make sense then, perhaps before the last first reading, that you would have met as a committee with the original committee members, or the workshop, if you will, or as Dr. Ward is saying, and review that before the first reading?
So
you can
this
hash these
is
out
this
before?
is not only within my purview. I am only one cog in the wheel. So if anybody else sees it fit to call for a workshop, then that is definitely something
I
that
don't
they
think you
should
heard
do.
me. What I was saying, why before the first reading,
Uh-huh.
after the meetings we had with the committee, the community, with the village mayor, with our attorney, why would it not precluded to have a meeting before? This is what we're proposing, these are the things we heard, we didn't. Because what I'm seeing on this, and I'm gonna say 90% of them were not listened to. And if you go back through the minutes, which I have been doing of our meetings for the last year, they've not been addressed even before that original first meeting. I bend to differ on you on that one. It sounds like there's an agenda on here, with all due respect, as my good neighbor and colleague, and you are the chairhead of this, that we need to take the time and dissect this and move it through. And we just have another reading again in a month without maybe a committee or a group or getting input from negative and positive. How do we get a resolution that's going to be enforceable and amenable and work within the law, which is even more important, which I think in some of these cases we are in violation. We've been told it, and we'll get more from the attorney once that letter comes to you guys as well.
Okay, I would like to clarify, and then
Please.
and then I also want to note for everyone in the audience that feels like your time is restricted, everyone has spoken over 3 minutes, and I've allowed it so that everyone can get a chance to kind of get the bulk of what they want to get out and get immediate response. I think we are dissecting the document. I think the first workshop, I think the conversations, I think all of those things are dissecting the document. And just to restate what I said before, just because you said something and that something wasn't incorporated in the document or didn't change something in the document doesn't mean you weren't heard. But what I can do is give you the reasons why those things remain. Maybe according to our village attorney, maybe it's not against the law. Maybe Mr. Brady is on the wrong side. Who don't know? Maybe, but our attorneys, it's all something that we are perfecting And just because you don't see your item changed, it doesn't mean that you weren't heard. It might just be because we fundamentally disagree.
And I'm very good with that. I'm looking forward to getting the response, but I do not think it's a bad idea to have a workshop and get this rehashed out again.
I'm sure the council hears that. Thank you so much.
No, and again, one more item. 3 minutes to go through this whole dialogue is not a lot of time.
You've had more than 3 minutes, and we
Once again,
routinely
please don't
do
interrupt
that.
me, as I did not interrupt you.
I'm
It's
going
not
to,
a lot of time
I'm
for
going
3
to,
minutes to
I'm
go.
going to, I'm going to, I'm
Thank you,
going to
Lois.
let you are heated on this topic.
I am
But that is not,
passionate.
but that is not a way that I want to be addressed, because I don't address you that way. So what I will say is, you have an issue with 3 minutes. I've heard it.
Thank you.
I've allowed you more than 3
Thank
minutes,
you.
and I will say that our conversation has concluded,
I
and we'll pick
appreciate
it
your
up
time.
at a time when you're a little bit calmer.
This is my nature. As the manager says, I'm a passionate man. and
Well,
that's
your
why I-
nature is not conducive to public meetings. So,
I would like to retract that message, because that is an insult to me personally, ma'am. Because I think this is very my nature. That's inappropriate for a council person who we elected to say that to a member. I am passionate, I enjoy it, this is who I am. I'm sorry if you don't like my demeanor.
I'm not saying that I don't like your demeanor.
Why are you saying that?
I'm saying that your demeanor is abrasive and it was unnecessary. And I hope that at the same time that everyone chimed up about what I just said to you, that they would chime up in the same way that you chose to speak
Right.
with me, because that was not appropriate. And I didn't do the same thing and come back at you. What I'm saying is you have to calm down if you want to have civil conversations in the setting of a public meeting.
I appreciate your input on that. Thank
So we will
Thank you.
pick it up.
you. I hope so.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
With that being said, do we have anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on the topic? Sir, please step up to the podium and state your name and your address for the record.
My name is John R. Smith, 8750 Northeast 4th Avenue Road, the house across the street. Mayor, council, people, lawyer. I don't know that much about the STR, the Airbnb. It's only going to affect your investors. It's not supposed to affect me and my wife. I don't have any investment property in Miami. I have it in Jacksonville and South Georgia. Whatever their fees is, that's what I have to pay. Whatever your legal wrangling is, you need to work that out. But the residents that don't have it should not have to pay for it. That's all.
Thank you so much for that comment. Do we have any additional comments from please step up to the podium, ma'am, and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, my name is Elida. I live in 12th Northeast 90th Street. So first I would like to, I was here last time and I expressed you my story that how this was impacting me as a homeowner or as someone that had to do the Airbnb or / short-term rental just because of the purpose of the situation, the hardship that I had encountered during the COVID. I wanted to express as well a little bit, because I was, after all that long meeting that we have, as you is expressing that we have only 3 minutes to speak, it was a very limited time to actually discuss real issues. And in the end, my understanding from the whole meeting, I think it lasted about 3 hours that I was here, I understood, the only thing that I understood, at least from Ms. Martin, right?
That's correct. Martin.
The only thing that I understood that it was something had to do with the movie crew and, and it was another citizen that was expressing some sort of like issue with that short-term rentals were going to create noise in our neighborhood. And going back and of course, that's, we as the short-term rentals that we are running this, we are the main thing is to actually be respectful to our community. And then, of course, we're doing this for different type of reasons. But for me, it was a hardship. And what has caused this, because I was speaking to the mayor as well, discussing as to why the issue was postponed for March to be discussed, and then was brought up to December. And it has given me the sort of like the feeling, how are we discussing this, the SDR issue? Are we allowed only here in 3 minutes, and then we're putting behind, and then you decide to put it back onto the agenda, and then we as the citizens, we cannot follow you, you are not giving us enough time to do our research, to do our comparison, what are happening in the other neighborhoods, what is happening in our neighborhoods, why are these issues, it sounds like, are always discussed some sort of in a very uninformed manner. That's my, and I'm new to this, to be honest. I arrived here only because this is sincerely affecting my livelihood. Because you said this issue was going to be discussed on March, and then this issue came back to, so I had opened the option for the Airbnb to be booked until then. Therefore, now you're pushing the discussion in January, so it means that I will assume another fine from the Airbnb because I will have to bring the business according to any type of deadlines that you are moving back and forth. That's the issue number one that I had with Ms. Martin, because I know you had organized a workshop, and I think that is very, very necessary. I know that I was not part of that workshop, but this is a major issue because I still don't understand why the councils or the city is trying to attack an issue as a short-term rental. Then, and I think that 3 minutes is a very, very limited time for this issue to be discussed in an informed way. They actually are doing it in a legal way and are getting the information, basically a legal a knowledge or sort of advice or in a legal way. For me, it's more as a citizen, I would like to know, when do I stop it? When do I begin it? How much are the issues that you are going to bring, because this affects my livelihood. I cannot stop the Airbnb today. I'm getting a fine from them. I have a daughter to feed. So there's many issues that happen to the individuals. And I don't understand why this is becoming always unpredictable. There's somehow always something that is not transparent. That's how I feel about the issue, Ms. Martin. And I still do not understand the clear reason why you are opposed to this, to Airbnb. Why are these fees inclined? Software, we discussed last time that it's, it shouldn't be the responsibility of short term, but other than that, I would like to have a more clear answer or transparent, like I shared my story with you. The other part it was with the vice mayor, which I didn't get any sort of I know that that's my understanding based on the research that you are opposed to this. And I would like to know more in a clear, transparent way, why are you opposed? What are the exact issues that you personally have had with short-term rentals? So I would like to know more in an honest way as a citizen. As I said, I'd like to know why I am affecting you. When I actually come to find out that you have a neighbor next door that is literally renting room by room. There's 5 cars over there. It's affecting the entire neighborhood. There's 2 more houses in the 90th Street. They are doing exactly that. There's enormous, unlimited number of cars literally parked on the swell. And I'm trying to understand why the members of the city are actually coming for something that the only thing that has been doing is kept my property in a better condition, has kept me to actually be able to pay the taxes on time as a citizen, has kept me to take care of my daughter with the flexibility, and why this is being attacked. I would like to understand more in a transparent way, and I would like to be informed as to, like the lady last time she expressed, she's like, I don't want to disrupt my noise. And I'm like, that's absolutely a fair issue to have, because I absolutely would not love that someone, like my neighbor, which is actually is closer to your house, has literally 5 cars, 2 dogs barking every time you walk, And then, of course, you know, like, I would not want to be that citizen. I would not want you to be walking through the cars, 5 cars, in order to get to your location.
Okay, we get your point. Time's up. And let me clear this.
And
We're not
there you go
attacking
again.
anybody.
I'm so sorry.
You have 3
And-
minutes to talk.
Exactly,
Okay,
and that is
so
my
you
point.
just repeating
That's
yourself.
my point to your. We need a workshop for this, because this is not an issue. It sounds like even last time it was exactly the same. We went over and over again, and this is just half of my point.
We understand, and I'm sure it's because we get your question. I'm sure Councilman Perrella is going to speak to that question. I believe. Is there something you would like to say, Councilman Perrella? Okay.
That is just a scratch of the topic, by the way.
Let's get the first one. Go ahead, Councilman Perrella.
Yeah, let's have this clear. Let's keep, clear something here. Nobody's attacking anybody. Nobody's against nobody doing business, which is what you're doing. Business, running a business from your house. Nobody's against all of that. We understand you can go through hardship. There's, many ways to, that you can survive. Were you talking about the 5 cars next to my house? I see that you have researched my surroundings.
No,
hasn't
actually-
affected me at all. And for my understanding, they're not renting Airbnbs. There's family members.
So-
I'm sorry,
But
I don't
that's
mean to
beside the
interrupt,
point.
but I think I stated this last time when you were a participant, and it's nothing against you. This is not a debate. This is not the floor for a debate. If you need to speak to any of the council members individually, or even the mayor or the vice mayor, you can reach them one-on-one. It is not fair also for the other people who are sitting here. That's why it's set that it's a 3-minute. This is not the floor for that. I'm sorry, you have to speak in your turn. Nobody's here to have this, you have to have the mutual respect, and that's the only reason.
That's why.
ma'am.
Okay, so let me
That's why.
interject for a
That's
second,
why.
because I do want you to
That's
feel
why. The
very
previous
much
member
so.
was treated that way, and
One
the second
one
member is
second,
treated that way.
one second.
That's why.
I do want you to have the feeling that you've been heard. So let me tell you how you can. So I have an email address, and you can email me, dmartin@villageofelportal.gov. As Mr. Russell knows, I will meet you for coffee. I will meet you outside of your home to speak about what the issues are so you can get a better understanding of it. We did host that workshop, and I'm sorry that you couldn't attend at that time, but that was another entry
Right, because it
point.
was not advertised. Sorry,
One second. Let's just do it one at a time so that we get our issues addressed. So those, and I'm sure with all of the other council members, you have that opportunity. You also have the opportunity to speak with the village manager about the specifics of the STR that you might have questions on. So my door is always open, so you don't only have to feel that as though you can only address your issues within the confines of this meeting. As the village clerk stated, the limit on time is so that everyone can get a chance to participate. And I also, in running this meeting, I know that emotions are running high, so I've allowed everyone to speak outside of that 3-minute time limit so that you're able to feel as though you are getting those points across. Just to address just a tad bit of what you said, because I don't want it to be a back and forth, but I am not against Airbnb or short-term rentals in any meaningful way at all. Although this forum, there are a lot of Airbnb owners that are in the building tonight. There have been people on the other side who've expressed having people urinating in their bushes, or noise complaints, or accessibility issues based on people parking on the sidewalks, and their disabled child or themselves couldn't access this. There have been complaints that have been received because of short-term rentals and just kind of the inherent things that come along with it. So that's the starting point. Throughout the time that we've had these meetings, these workshops, various issues have been brought forth, including the issues that you stated, and we've addressed those. But if you want to address them with me over me stopping by, or if you want a formal meeting, that's something I'm willing to do as well, so that you don't feel as though you have to limit it to just this forum. This is probably actually the most inefficient way to do it.
Absolutely.
I
agree,
think
because
if you, no,
obviously, even
but if
I
you
speak
reach
to you
out to me.
personally, I would not find solution. If I speak to you personally, I would like to actually be able to speak
Oh,
to
no.
all of you.
But I thought you asked me a specific question. You said, I want to know what you think about STRs.
Right. That was
And I can do
specific
that
to
for
you. But regarding the workshop, I think that we all, and it should be advertised, not I understand
Excuse me,
that
ma'am.
last time
It
was
has
not
been
advertised.
plenty of time. This topic has been on for 2 years. It's been, you can go back and forth and look at all the meetings. We've actually contemplate every possibility. We finally got a code enforcement officer that actually knows what's going on with Airbnbs or short-term renters, rentals. And that's why most of the red striking on the ordinance became because he found out there's a few things that weren't actually there. We probably one of the few municipalities, if not the only one, that doesn't have any short-term rental ordinance. So it's not like we are
Because
against
you have
anything.
noise
it's
ordinances
just
in place. So
there's,
I don't.
there's nothing on.
yeah.
Well,
But
now
I've
had
that we
only
have it
four-
on place.
Four phone
now
calls
that-
the entire year.
Yes, now that
6.
we have ordinance in place, we just you're not violating anything because after the fees and everything gets
Actually, based on the state
Okay,
state
guys.
laws, you are.
Okay,
but
okay.
that's
We're not. Again, let's just let
All
me
right.
talk and let me explain you.
Councilman
the reasons.
Perella, can I have a second?
Sure.
So I think that you stated what you want your remedy to be. Like you said that you would want there to be a
You
workshop.
did not allow me. That's why I was asking for the workshop, because obviously,
So
but
you stated
it
that.
sounds like this short-term rentals. It has caused to the city a 2-year long conversation, which, by the way, I was doing it for 2 years and I haven't been informed. So therefore, that's concerning because you haven't invited people that are actually running
Everything
this.
is on the minutes and on the agendas
Right.
of every meeting. So
I
you
heard
need
that
to
it's a
look-
long. I'm not on
But
the
again,
list.
you
By
have
the way,
you have to then do your research.
I'm still on the list. By the
And
way.
then, no, but you can go into
That's
the
how
website
informed
every
we
week.
are as a city.
Excuse
That's
me,
how
ma'am.
well we're
Would you
speaking with
please
each other.
Respect?
And that's why how
Well,
I mean that
we
this
don't want-
conversation are very hostile.
So it's not, and we don't want it to be that
if
way.
the
We don't-
excuse
excuse me, ma'am.
vice mayor speaks like that,
Excuse me, ma'am.
I'm not speaking anyway. You're the one.
Vice Mayor
over
Perella,
talking.
Vice Mayor Perella, we don't want this to devolve into something that's contentious, right? You've requested there be a workshop, and that's something that everyone on the council has heard. So maybe someone will make the motion for there to be a workshop. As far as your time on the mic, it has come to a conclusion. You've spoken longer than the 3 minutes. Hopefully you feel as though we've heard you. And I think the biggest ask that you have for the council is that you want there to be a workshop so that you can
no,
have.
actually, that's the biggest ask. Is that since I'm here for the second time, that I was informed
give me the
finally by
ask.
I would like to know a little bit more clear, transparent, why this is always some sort of like jumped. Because like it's affecting my livelihood. If you say that tomorrow I'm going to impose the fee, tomorrow I'm going to have to actually lock my doors and then go find another solution. I don't know where I'm going to go tomorrow. If you are going to discuss the issues that way, if you're going to tell me that you are better okay to have 5 cars next door on your swell than me, that I'm not, barely I have one. If you are telling me it's better for me to have 5 cars in front of my house, rent room by room, that's not a solution that you are giving me, and you're not being transparent, and absolutely I feel attacked. And you know that because even last time, every single time, every member speaks, I feel that there's always either our emotions high or your guys' emotions are high. I'm not quite sure.
Well, we
so
want
I'm
to.
seen as a citizen perspective. Why
Okay.
am I being attacked from my city?
We
I'm
wanna-
gonna I'm gonna lock the doors.
Can you give
But
me
if
an
you
opportunity
discuss
to
this
speak?
for 2 years, then you should have taken care of
Okay.
so many other issues that our city
Can you give me an
has.
opportunity to speak? Because it's going to work out better that way. You do seem.
But I would like to have a solution.
This
And
is
I would like not to
so
spend
maybe
more
your
evenings here
solution might
and leave my daughter
come.
alone again.
Your
I would
s-
like to have a solution that
your
you will give me
solution-
the word to speak. You would give me the opportunity to speak
So
and express
I'm
this.
being very kind to you, right? Because at this point, it's not a conversation. You're just saying things into the mic. But what I want to do is have a conversation with you that may involve a solution to your issue.
Thank you.
And that can only happen if you speak and then you allow me or some of my cohorts to speak as well. That's the only way that it's going to happen. I want everybody in the building to know that I empathize. There are some things that I believe that are different from what you believe. Some concerns that are very much at the forefront of my mind, because I am looking at the entire issue from everyone's perspective, even from yours as well, even though you might not think that it is so. So to allay your fears on that, I will go ahead and I will make the motion to host another workshop on the topic, and I'll see whether or not my colleagues as well, or actually I don't need to have a motion. I will host another workshop on the topic.
Right.
And with this caveat, during that time between, what I will do is host that workshop, and I will make sure that it is midway between now and when our next council meeting is. It will be noticed.
Thank you.
It will be sent directly to your email address. Everyone who wants it sent directly to them, please see the clerk so that it can be sent to you. In addition to that, the documents that you guys have put forth with your red lines, if there are additional red lines, concerns, comments, this would be a great time to submit them so that when we come to said workshop, we will have a comprehensive, complete way to itemize and document your concerns and address those concerns. Hopefully at that meeting, you feel that you are heard again, because we've done this before, and hopefully you feel as though you are being spoken to transparently, because I want this to be a transparent process. I don't have an agenda. I just have the interest of everyone at heart,
Okay.
right?
I would
So,
like to hear those
so you
points
guys,
as well.
you guys should do that. We will have the workshop.
Mhm. But I would also emphasize it's very important for all of you as the members to be participants. It's not a discussion that should be just because obviously it was very easy for you to go and vote on this ordinances. So I would like you also to hear our story and be informed as well from our perspective.
I think we have been.
This is my second meeting, and both based on the research that I've received, it sounds that I don't see yet a strong reason when I look at it from the citizen perspective that why this is being taken for 2 years as a conversation.
I don't think it should have taken 2 years,
So
but hopefully
something must have not been either properly relied to the citizen, or something that has taken this issue to become a 2 year 2 years.
I would love to answer that if I could.
Sure.
So the reason it's taken 2 years is because you've had 5 people who have consistently been open and willing to listen to literally every single comment that every citizen has had when they walked in this door. If it was any other way, the ordinance would be in place. We'd have an enforcer out enforcing it, and we'd be seeing you in magistration when you fight whatever citation came. So for me, the evidence that there is no malice towards short-term operators is the fact that this has taken 2 years. We could have installed fees already and had this ordinance in effect easily 6 months ago already. And so...
And don't forget also, because
So
we were waiting for
this is something
legislation
that
to pass their, and also because we're waiting for legislation, the state legislation to set the rules about Airbnb or short-term rentals, which nothing happened this year, but the year before there were some changes. That's why we couldn't proceed with ordinances and stuff like that. But it, like I said, it's been on the table for a long time. And again, we're not reinventing the wheel. It's ordinances. The ordinances are all across the nation about short-term rentals.
Okay.
And that's why we just have to put something in place.
Any
here.
other
That's it.
points that you have regarding
But
the
we can
STRs?
address that at the workshop. So we've already voted that, hey, there's not voted.
I
I've already
understand,
agreed
but
to
I would
host
like
a
to-
workshop.
I would like to have Mr. Pereira.
But also we have to allow other
But he
people
hasn't
a
spoken.
time to respond.
He has not been
No, I
able
have
to-
nothing else to say.
wait,
I
wait.
have nothing else to say. ma'am.
Mr. Perella, yes, Vice Mayor Perella, great.
So
He's
against,
concluded
but
his
he has nothing
document.
to say, correct?
Incorrect. I will say I understand Mr. Russell's outburst. I'm far more aggressive than he could ever be, honestly. I will say you raised your finger in my world that when you point at somebody, a raised voice and a pointed finger is a fight. The fight's already started. So just that's all I'm saying. And it's not a personal, I'm saying that that in the world of aggression, passive aggression, I will remind everybody, all 8 billion human beings on this planet, passive aggression. It's not aggressive passiveness. It is passive aggression. Passive aggression is aggression. It is. I will say that. And so I do feel that we're devolving into a passive aggressive environment in this entire context of discussion. And I think that we do need to put a pin in this, considering the fact that we have.
So you consider passive aggressive when someone is trying to figure out what is going to happen to her tomorrow?
So we're gonna.
I have older sisters and a little brother.
I'm
We're gonna
asking
have
you a
to
question
end it at
because
some
this
point.
is my second meeting, and I have been here, and I would like to know Mr. Spirella's perspective. And yet again, we spoke about transparency, and you are telling me I have nothing else to say. Okay, that's understandable.
Be sure to give
Perfect
your.
what? Perfect what?
Be sure to give your email address to the clerk so that we can advise you as to when the workshop is occurring. And I definitely want to see you there and for us to
Right.
address some additional issues at the workshop.
I would absolutely would like you to have the members also participating, because again, we don't want this conversation to happen a year later. This is, like a year
For
later,
sure.
we want this conversation
I
to
can
be
guarantee you
informed.
that we won't be doing this for a year. That one I can guarantee you. We will not be still talking about short-term rentals.
Can you please ask your colleagues if they can be in the meeting?
So,
She would have to close public comments and come back to you guys to move on.
No, I would like to know if other members there are either against
Oh,
this or
again,
pro
I
this.
told
I
you
would
to
like to
reach
know
out to
their
them.
perspective.
And I would like,
I
just
need,
in
I
less
need to
chemicals
make a
in the water.
clarification, though. Anybody who wants to sign up for the emails has to go through the website because there's laws. Once that your email is provided, it becomes a public record. Anything that comes through my office, as many of you know, it's a public record. So you need to provide your email through the website because there's a statute on the bottom that says it's a public record.
So it's a law that my email will be
Yes.
public
Once
record?
This is a public format. Your
Right.
conversation is recorded. Anybody can see it. Anybody can ask for it. So if you have
So so we passed the email. I will find out that information how. But I'm more interested right now that if I'm having a workshop, I would like to have an informed workshop. I would like to also, notify all of my neighbors opposite, or because as a citizen, I would like to do the right thing as well. I'm not doing this, and I would like the members to be participants to
Understood.
that.
They have
So they
already
don't
left.
have an opinion tonight, and they don't want to participate on the workshop. So how do I understand what is exactly that we are going either against you, or why this is happening?
Understood. Like I said before, your minutes have been up way past it. The format here is not to have the whole back and forth, is for you to state your opinion and then move on from it. She is willing to give you or the council. My position here is just that the meeting, how it's being held, it needs to move forward.
Right, so again, it's not transparent.
So have a good night.
We're just, there you go. Exactly that. I'm sincerely, it's my second meeting, right? So do you want to speak on passive aggressiveness? Would you like? Please, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It sounds to me as a citizen that you have the upper hand.
In
it's the second
any
time-
other
no,
city,
because I
they would have
came
already,
here-
because
I came
in
here
any
to
other
find
city.
out the information.
If you
as
look
to
at the
what
meetings
is
of
going
any
to
other
happen
city,
to
this
me
is the way it's
next
ran.
month.
I
What is
understand.
going
Both of us can't speak at the same time. In any other city, I invite you to go see the city of Miami, how they run the
That's
meetings.
why we live in a wonderful city of El Portal, because
So-
we don't live we live in a beautiful
Understood,
harmony.
understood.
And
But
I've
at this
never
point,
encountered this in my
ma'am,
life.
at
And
this
if there's
point-
no transparency, while I'm asking you right here directly to the vice mayor, if there's no transparency tonight, I just wonder what's happening on other meetings that we, as a citizen, look at. You have only STR citizens here,
Correct.
and probably another couple.
You're
I
t-
just wonder what are the other issues that you are surpassing without informing the citizens properly, and actually pushing me back to tell me that I have a limited
Ma'am?
time. Absolutely. Thank you so much for
You
your
have a good night.
thank you.
One reminder.
Sure.
All meetings committee meetings, council meetings, all meetings are on our YouTube channel. When I came on the council, I've said this before, when I came on the council, how I was able to catch up in the committees to understand what was happening was I watched the YouTube channel. It's not exciting, but every single meeting that has been had is on the YouTube channel going back for as long as we've been doing recordings of these meetings. So it's a fantastic resource, honestly. I don't know. I find it interesting, but there you go. Keep yourself busy for like 9 months watching Village of El Portal committee meetings.
That's a great point. I think at this point, everyone has made their comments, and I'll go ahead and pass it back to the mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Martin. Moving along, Attorney, is Geller not here? Okay. Well, I don't think we have anything for attorney reports. Moving on to good and welfare, right now is the time when anybody can come and talk about anything at all. You have 3 minutes to do so. Name and address for the record. You're good, no problem. Attorney Geller, if you had any reports, I'm going to come to you next.
Scott Russell, 199 Northwest 90th Street. I just want to make a comment, and with all due respect, when you send an email to any of our council members, it's a common courtesy that they should respond on a timely basis, as well as I think you may not all be aware your phone numbers. When you call the listed phone numbers in the directory, most of them are not set up. I brought this up to the mayor, I brought it up to, and I brought it up to the village manager. It behooves us, if you're going to be on the council and you want to be active, and thank you for your service, all of you, that you should be participating and respond back to the residents, all of you, with an email within a timely manner, and also set up your phone system so a phone can be left. And, I applaud that you offered up to meet, and thank you for doing that. We did meet one time. But again, the transparency within my 3 minutes, answer your emails from your citizens who are paying the taxes. You are the elected officials, and your phones. That's my comment.
I have, haven't I?
You do.
Yes,
And I'm
okay.
You do, not the phone, you don't on the phone, but you do an email. But not all the members, and some, I'm not naming them out, but, that's part of your roles as elected officials, okay? That's my time within well-time period, and not passive-aggressive. Thank you.
Anybody? Name and address for the record.
Moned Martin, 465 Northwest 89th Street. There's a lot of passion in this room tonight, and I love it. I will say that you guys should show that same passion at election time. I know Councilwoman Lightfoot Ward, Councilwoman Martin, both ran unopposed. It's a volunteer job. I'm sure nobody really wants it, but you put your name on the ballot. You can be elected, and you can be the one to answer your phone and your emails, all right? Thank you guys for all the hard work you do. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Name and address for the record.
Pascal DePool, 177 Northwest 90th Street, like you guys don't know that by heart yet. I just want to say thank you. We're all residents here too. We're not just some outside investors that come in here and do anything. I know everybody that's sitting here that is an STR owner is also an El Portal resident and lives here and loves the village. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being honest with us. Thank you for all the passion that you guys bring to this too. We just love to be able to, thanks for the workshop. We appreciate that. We'd love to be able to go through this and kind of figure out what needs to get done. I just want to say thanks.
Thank you. Come on up. Name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. My name is James Curry, 52 Northeast 90th Street. I agree on both sides with you guys. I think the best thing to do is to get all of our neighbor villages what they have on record and bring it and have a workshop and let everyone see how other municipalities around us are doing it, so villagers can understand what you are doing and why you're doing it, or why we shouldn't be doing it because other places are not. So that's my recommendation. Have a workshop, bring everyone else, explain what they're doing, so we all learn together. Because it sounds like we're doing things residents don't know, and we're putting things together that seems awkward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for good and welfare? Seeing none. Let me just say something really quickly. Really, really quick. And I just want to say this, with all due respect to everybody here. As you guys have heard, passions are high for this. Let me just say something about experience of being up here. I've been up here for a long time. I was vice mayor for 8 years. Now I've been mayor. If I ever do something, I'm doing it because I have the experience to know the outcome, right? And you guys know I love everybody up here. You guys know I believe 100% this is the best council that I've been on since I've been up here. But listen, you all. Last month when I pulled this item, it was for a reason. It was because it wasn't ready, as you guys saw tonight. Attorney Geller said at the very beginning, he said, we can pass the fees, he said, and then we can pass the fees before the ordinance. He said, but then the fees don't kick into the ordinance. You guys heard him say that in the beginning? That's the reason why I didn't have the fees last time. Because they wouldn't, if we would have had the fees in December, we could have passed them, but they don't mean anything until the ordinance. I told you the ordinance was all crazy. So just understand that if I pull something off an agenda, it's not because I'm trying to stop you guys. It's because, Madam Clerk, how many years have you been working here? 8. I've been here for 12 years, you guys. We've seen how things go. And we know, we see the future in this stuff, right, Madam Clerk? And we know, oh, look at this. It's not the time to do it yet. Let's pull it. This has to be this. We should do this first. We should do this. Attorney Geller, how long have you been working for the village altogether? 25. And so, I'm just, this is all I'm saying. I'm just asking you guys. Listen, and I even had this discussion with with Dr. Ward one time, and I'm just being transparent, right? When Dr. Ward first came on, she used to come after me when I used to be on the dais. And one night we had a discussion with her husband. And I said, you guys, I've been up here. You have to trust me. Like, you're coming after me because it's a lack of trust. Because you guys look at me like, well, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. But I know what I'm doing. I've been up here, y'all. Like, you just got to trust me that I know what I'm doing. All right? I appreciate y'all, everybody. Okay,
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Just a quick something.
No problem.
I don't think the ordinance was all crazy. I think the legislative process is just that there are refinements. There are some things when you're just doing something for the first time. Think about a baby walking. That's the most the present thing in my mind. It takes a while. It takes some adjustments, and eventually you get your stride. And this is just part of it. What I do think is kind of pausing when things get sticky or a little rough. That's what leads you to 2 years later not having an ordinance, and for people to have that opinion that in some way there's something wrong with the document, which is why we're not doing it, or wrong with legislating in this way. So yes, it's sticky and it was gritty today. Something that came from it that I think would not have come from it before was, hey, we're going to have an additional workshop, which will lead us to discuss some of the same topics we've discussed before. We have looked at ordinances and fees in similarly situated cities and cities that weren't similarly situated. We've engaged in that conversation. We have had workshops where we have talked extensively about what the impetus was for this decision. These are not workshops that were well attended, and I'm hoping that the passion in this room leads you to come to those meetings and come to those workshops and participate fully. But I thought today was a great meeting, in that there is movement and there is a refinement of the process, and that's all you can hope for, is to have a more perfect document every time you discuss it. Passions are high. Good thing I'm cool and even-headed, so level-headed. So that doesn't worry me much. I'm looking forward to the workshop, and we'll have the conversation as many times as it takes, but the process will continue to move forward.
I understand. Thank you very much, Councilperson Martin. But remember that what was brought up was that the fees were supposed to be voted on in December. That's what I was attacked about, is that the fees weren't ready to be voted on. And I explained that the fees don't kick in until the ordinance is done. So even if we had brought the fees in December to be voted on, they would have just been sitting there right now. Because until the ordinance is done, which we're about to go back to first reading next month. That was my point. That I knew what I was doing when I didn't put the fees on there. Plus, the fees to be put into action need to be passed by resolution, which is you see right now, the resolution's still not ready. So I'm just saying, you guys, like, experience makes a difference. Just kind of keep that in mind. All right. Anybody else? We're good.
One more
Go ahead.
thing, and then I'm going to end. I definitely don't want anyone to feel attacked. I do feel like we have the same end goal in mind. There's just different ways to do it. You can't do it the resolution route and refine the document after, or do it this way. And I agree that it's cleaner and easier for people to follow this way. So I agree on that.
Well, we're in agreement. Thank you very much, Councilperson and Chairperson Martin. I appreciate you. Vice Mayor Perella, Councilperson Erbaum, Councilperson Lightfoot Ward, thank all of you. Anybody else for good and welfare? Come on, you got 3 minutes. Name and address for the record. This last good and welfare, as always, you can talk about anything at all. It doesn't have to be just stuff on the agenda.
I would like to emphasize, because it sounds like very in a leisure sort of like tone or conversation that you're having. It doesn't impact you, it's true, but it's impacting us. Even for them, if they're doing as a business, and especially for me that I'm doing as a livelihood, it does impact us. Every single time that either you're pushing or you are putting an agenda or not putting an agenda, or you guys are not in agreement and you are not being informed, well informed on this topic, again, as the previous citizen mentioned, you know, if you're not well informed why you're taking these steps, it's impacting us. You cannot just, you know, decide that, oh, I want to put in an agenda, not put in an agenda, because again, if I would open the books until March, then, you know, and you are imposing a fee, therefore you are putting me in position to shut it down. And then therefore you're putting me in a position to receive a fine from the Airbnb or from these sites. So yes, it does impact us. You know, this, I understand it's a 2-year issue, but it cannot just, you have to leave a sort of time of us to do the research, to be well informed, and all of that. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. Anybody else good and welfare? All right. Hearing none. Attorney Geller, you didn't have a report, did you? You good? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, so we're going to move by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
Second.
We'll give you the second, Councilperson Chairperson Martin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none. The regular council meeting for Tuesday, January 24th, 2023 is adjourned at 9:14 p.m. Thank you, guys.